Hey guys, this lesson is from section 1.3 and it deals with locating points and midpoints. So we looked at already finding the distance between 2 points on a number line and on a coordinate plane. Um, Now we're looking at taking that same concept, that same information given, and locating or finding the midpoints on a coordinate plane or on just a regular number line. If you recall, when we were finding the distance, we were able to use the slope to find that A and B to plug into Pythagorean theorem, or we were able to use the distance formula, which is essentially the same thing as slope. For midpoints, what we're doing for a midpoint is the midpoint of a segment is the point halfway between the endpoints of the segment. So what that means is if M is the midpoint of segment AB, then the distance from A to M is the same as the distance from M to B. So that's what's meant by the midpoint of a segment. Essentially, to find the midpoint on just a number line, what we're doing is we're finding the mean or the average of the coordinates of the endpoints. So just to take a quick look at an example of what that means, find the mean or the average. So let's get our number line going here. I'm just going to count by fours, or by twos, I mean, up to 10. And then we'll have negatives on this side. -6, -8, -10. And let's put us a couple points on here on our number line. So let's put one here at, let's just say at 7. And then let's put another one back here at -4. So what we're trying to do is find the midpoint between -4 and 7. So what's the middle of those 2 points? You could do it by counting, obviously. If you know the total distance from -4 to 7, then you could just count half of that. But what this statement up here says, to find the mean or average of the coordinates. Well, how do we find the mean or average? Well, we're going to take the 2 coordinates. So we have a 7. We're going to add those 2 numbers together. So 7 plus -4. And then we're going to divide that by, well, how many numbers are we adding? So we're adding 2 numbers. So to get the average or the mean of those 2 numbers, we have to divide by 2. So if we calculate this, 7 plus -4 is a -3 divided by 2. And we end up with a midpoint or a mean of a -1.5. So that means at -1.5, that's not right. That should be a +3. I hope some of you are able to catch that. So that's going to give me a +1.5. So that's going to be 1 is about right here. So 1.5 is roughly about right there. So that would be the midpoint of between -4 and 7. Okay? So when we get to a coordinate plane, so let me draw a coordinate plane. We're going to look at it the same way we did with the distance formula, where if we have so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, -2, -4, -6, -8, -10. I'm not going to number everything. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then -2, -4, -6, -8, -10. Okay? So let's say we have coordinate here at say 2, 6. I'll go ahead and label that. And then we have another coordinate down here at, say, 6, negative 4. Okay? We are looking for the midpoint between those two endpoints. So remember, when we talked about betweenness, the term betweenness means that in order for a point to be between two other points, it has to be along that same line. So we are going to calculate the midpoint. Well, the way we calculate a midpoint is we're going to do the average twice. We're going to do the average with our x-coordinates, the average with y-coordinates. So we're going to start off the same way with x1, y1, x2, y2. And I'm going to start off with using my x-coordinates. So I'm going to take the average of my x-coordinates, so x2 plus x1 over 2. And then I'm going to take the average of my y-coordinates, so y2 plus y1 over 2. And once we calculate those two different averages, that will give us the x and y pair for our midpoint. So if we look at our two x-coordinates, we have a 6 and a 2, so we're going to have 6 plus 2 divided by 2. Our y-coordinates, we're going to have a negative 4 plus 6 over 2. Okay? Now I'm quickly going to do this calculation in my head. 6 plus 2 is 8, divided by 2 is 4. So that means the midpoint, or the x-coordinate for our midpoint, is at 4. And if I do the same thing with y, negative 4 plus 6 is a positive 2, divided by 2 is a 1. So my midpoint between these 2 points, or the midpoint of this line segment, is at the points 4, 1. So that's going to be roughly right here. Well, my number line that I drew, my line is not perfectly straight, so it's not quite exactly on the line where it's supposed to be. But that's how we would calculate the midpoint.